Welcome to the Mindful Academy podcast with me, Jennifer Askey. I'm a professional certified coach and academic workplace consultant. On this podcast, I talk about doing well personally so that you can perform well professionally. I talk about intentional career planning and about how to get out of your own way and align yourself with success. Thank you for joining me. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Mindful Academy. I'm Jennifer Askey, professional certified coach, former professor. And today I want to talk about self-limiting beliefs because we all have them and we might not be aware of them. So self-limiting beliefs have to do with your self-concept, your definition of yourself, and how your beliefs about yourself inform how you work, how you interact with others, how you interact with yourself, how you treat yourself, right? And what I find interesting about self-limiting beliefs is that we can look at things superficially and say like, oh yeah, I can see how maybe thinking of myself as let's say part of your self-concept is plays well with others, super engaged, teacher's pet, right? Maybe that is part of your identity. That is how you were spoken to and spoken about when you were small. You've carried at least parts of that with you. And you can see on a surface level, oh yeah, that might feed into some habits or ways of being that don't really serve me. What I find interesting is that there are layers below that. And I'm probably drawn to this concept right now because I'm in therapy again, not because of any crisis, but because I sort of felt like I needed to dig into some layers below the first couple layers. That sounds awkward. No, because I'm in a helping profession, right? It is incumbent upon me to always have access to the help that I need. So I usually have a coach. If I don't have a coach, I have a therapist, and I work in those modalities so that I'm getting the support I need and so that I have that safe space for me to unpack all my stuff. And right now I'm uncovering new layers to self-limiting beliefs. So I'll tell you a little bit about how these show up, and we'll do some exploration together. So I'll start with my assumptions about you. These are my assumptions about all of the people that I work with. This is just my set of beliefs about my clients. You are incredibly intelligent. You have worked really hard to get where you are. You believe in the ability of work to enhance your life and vice versa. And that in at least some areas of your life, you are striving for excellence. Okay. Now, if we take that self-concept and unpack it a bit, and I'll narrate an example here and invite you to think about your own. So let's say that part of your own narrative self-concept is, oh yeah, I got this PhD because I was an amazingly good student and just kept going to school, and it was great, and I always got A's. Teachers really loved me because I was super engaged. Maybe your narrative is, yeah, this was hard work, and I overcame all of these obstacles to get where I am, right? Class obstacles, generational obstacles, race and gender obstacles, sexual orientation obstacles. I pushed against the patriarchy every step of the way to wind up where I am today. Maybe part of your self-concept is, I'm gifted. I didn't have to try hard. It just happened because I kept at it and didn't walk away, right? And of course, a million other versions of that self-concept. And this layer of your self-concept probably isn't something that you visit a lot mentally. And even if it is an old story, right, about overcoming odds, or an old story about plays well with others, or giftedness, or hard work, or whatever, even if that story feels old when I say it out loud, it could very well be showing up on a daily basis in how you approach yourself, how you approach others, and how you approach your work. Importantly, it also, these beliefs about who we are inform the futures that we can imagine for ourselves, and they inform the possibilities for action in the moment that we can access, right? So getting in touch with what your self-limiting beliefs are and choosing to adjust them, right? Choosing to go from sort of a set definition of you, maybe cemented in time when you were 8 years old or 17 or 23, right? Instead of keeping this version of you that was probably handed to you in part by other people when you were younger, say, aha, I see that this is informing how I behave. How might I adjust my self-concept so that it reflects who I am, who I want to be, what I see as my capabilities, from a place of possibility rather than from a place of sort of preset and predefined. Self-limiting beliefs, like in quotes, as a topic, are a mainstay of a lot of coaching and therapy modalities, but they weren't really part of how I was trained at all. Actually, my training is rooted mostly in positive psychology, in neuroplasticity, in embodied self-awareness, where we sort of work with what's good and build out from there. And so I'm really discovering the power of self-limiting beliefs to steer us in ways that we might not even be aware of. So in the way I usually work is, let's use mindfulness to recognize some patterns in our actions and in our thoughts, right? Now, and then see where we can shift them, right? Coaching tends to be a very forward-focused, future-focused modality. But I think there's real space for stopping, going deep, and saying, what is this narrative that I believe about myself, don't even maybe articulate to myself, that are influencing the possibilities that I can imagine for myself? Okay. And so I'm going to turn my page of notes here, and then I'm going to talk to you about some of the examples of self-limiting beliefs that I have seen in myself and that show up often in the clients that I work with. So self-limiting belief number one, I only succeed on other people's terms, right? This probably goes hand in hand with people pleasing. This probably looks like saying yes to everything. And it comes, as you can hear, like it comes with a sense of powerlessness. I will only succeed if they let me, right? Life happens to me, right? It is controlled by other people. Other people are in control of my fate. This leads to a lack of boundaries, right? But if your underlying belief is, I am not in control of my future, other people are, other institutions are. You might see if that's a pattern. Oh, I'm not in control here. How far back does that pattern of you not being in control go? Okay. We'll talk about shifting in a minute, but let's just recognize where these self-limiting beliefs pop up and how deeply they run. Another self-limiting belief. If I don't do ridiculous and meticulous quality control, it will all go to complete shit. Okay. This shows up as inability to delegate, difficulty mentoring, right? Because the give and take of mentoring is hard if you feel the need to control. It can show up as analysis paralysis, as perfectionism, which I talked about in a recent episode, and just like unrelenting pursuit of more. This is a version of a belief that the world is an unforgiving and harsh place, right? And so to gird yourself against that harshness, you need to really be diligent meticulous quality control, meticulous effort, right? Because the world is inherently dangerous. Another self-limiting belief: my only worth is in my output. Now, I think in some academic environments, this could be the university motto, but because this is actually supported in some systems, this notion that you're only as good as the last thing you published, you are only as good as the number of things you published, right? So this myth can be myth. It can be not a myth. It can be very self-perpetuating. I do believe that you have agency to push back against it. But when you believe this, it shows up in your life as workaholism. It shows up interpersonally and intrapersonally as rigor in place of warmth, rigor in place of reasonableness, right? Critical thinking taken to the nth degree, right? Where everything is an object of scrutiny, which also overlaps with the world is a dangerous place. My only worth is in my output. I am not worthy without production, right? This may sound like hard work is the only key to success. Hard work is a virtue. Anything that is not incredibly hard work is sloth, and therefore one of the 7 deadly sins. Okay. Another self-limiting belief, and this one, I think this might be the granddaddy, the grandmama of a lot of them. I am limited in the amount of success I can have because of who I am, because I'm a woman, because I'm a person of color, because I'm in the humanities, because I'm in a small town, because I grew up poor, because I grew up working class, because I'm gay. I will never be on the stage. I will never get the award. I will never get the raise. I am limited in the amount of success I can have, might translate into I am limited in the amount of money I can earn because I'm a woman in the humanities at a small college, right? Now, according to the salary table at your institution, that may be factually true, but ultimately, those limits are created by an institution. They are not inherent in your being. So I invite you to see how believing that your current circumstances are also your fate severely restricts the possibilities you can see for your life. And that believing that your external circumstances are fixed and are a judgment of you severely limits your opportunities, the availability mentally that you have to create, well, to create, period, but to create a fuller life, if you want a fuller life, right? This notion of tenure being golden handcuffs and now I'm stuck here, or because I have all of these years spent in training and education and degree seeking, I owe it to the academy to pursue that career with all of the limitations that it, geographical location, to my finances, to my family constellation, etc. Right? So the belief that you are not in control, while factually in systems, you might have limited control. If you sign over all of your agency to external actors, sometimes nameless, faceless external actors, you are robbing yourself of a ton of the agency that you were probably seeking when you launched a career in academia. And what underlies this, I am limited in the amount of success or money or possibility I can have. The belief that's really at the root of that, I think, is other people are different than I am. I am somehow on the outside. So maybe it's people who earn a lot of money are different than I am. Maybe they're nastier than I am or luckier than I am. Maybe it's people who are wildly successful academically are different than I am. Maybe because they're luckier, maybe because they're smarter, maybe because they're more ruthless, right? But it's this notion that you are different than others, or that successful people are fundamentally different from you in a way that maybe you are free to judge because it's nasty. I will invite that set of beliefs is like a handbrake on your own ambition, a handbrake on your own vision of possibility for your life. If you assume that people who are successful, people who own homes, people who have beautiful families, people who make a lot of money, people who publish a lot of things, that they are fundamentally different from you, that's like a constant pumping of the brakes on, don't push for that too much, because what comes out of that is somebody or something that is unlikable. Now that sounds facetious a little bit, and it also sounds like maybe I'm denying the reality of systematic oppression, and I'm not. Because those systems exist. And also, what does it mean for you, for me, for anybody, if we take ultimate responsibility for our choices and not just placidly assume that the situation we find ourselves in is responsible for the number and kinds of choices we have, right? Not everybody is in a safe place to blow up their career and move to Bora Bora, right? But if moving to Bora Bora is on your bucket list, what are the possibilities that get you there? What kinds of possibility-oriented thinking do you need to be engaged in to take a couple of actions that move you a little bit further down that path? And that possibility and solutions-oriented thinking is radically different than tacitly, silently, just working with the self-concept and self-limiting beliefs that have accompanied you for stretches of your life, right? And show up as sort of natural and God-given. So there are probably as many self-limiting beliefs as there are human beings, and then some, right? So I'm not going to spend hours talking about them, although it will probably come up again on the podcast. What I want to offer you now is just a couple experiments to maybe explore your self-limiting beliefs a bit more, or to step away from them a bit, provide alternatives. So how would you behave? Okay, here's the first experiment. If you're working under the assumption that other people are in control, other institutions are in control, I am powerless over what happens next, right? If that's your self-limiting belief, ask yourself, how would I behave if I were in control? How would I think if I were in control? How would I talk about myself if I were in control? How would I talk with my partner if I were in control? And see what the gap is between how you're talking to yourself and your partner and how you're behaving now, and how you would behave or speak if you were in control. How big is that gap? If it's a tiny gap, great. If it's a huge gap, let's talk about that, right? If you are working under the self-limiting belief that the world is an inherently dangerous place, and that vigilance and protection is the order of the day, how would you behave if the world was on your side? How would you behave if the universe actually did have your back? This is one that I've practiced for a long time, in part because I think I did come of age in a space where I felt like the world was a very dangerous place, both personally and globally, right? I'm a Gen Xer. I grew up with air raid sirens. And so the practice of the universe is always conspiring for me or for us has helped me a lot. because the desire, for example, to do some serious long-range planning. My husband and I are a dual career academic couple. That's one of the reasons I'm a coach. But we planned and planned and planned, like, how are we going to line all of this up for happy jobs and having kids and living in a place that we like? And we'd make a plan and then things would change, and we'd make a plan and things would change, and then we'd hope for something and that wouldn't happen. And slowly but surely, we just decided, what if we assume that if it's happening for us? And that has been incredibly useful in getting over disappointment and seeing silver linings, and in seeing where our individual opportunities for solutions-focused thinking are, as opposed to bemoaning our fate. Now, just because I've gotten really good at it when it comes to like dual couple career planning, doesn't mean that I'm good at it in all areas of my life. So, right, there's another layer. Let's pull that back and say, okay, what if I assume that the universe is conspiring for me? The world is not inherently dangerous. The world is in support of my best self. How might I approach building a business? How might I approach public speaking? How might I approach my body, right? Any sort of thing that isn't this little area where I feel like I've gotten it more sorted, right? If you are working with hard work is the only key to success, what about if you're working with hard work is the only key to success, my only worth is in my output? Okay, then let's start with, I am worthy. It is safe for me to feel worthy. I do not have to prove my worth. I am worthy, other people are worthy. We share that as humans. How might you treat yourself? How might you treat others if you came from a fundamental assumption of worthiness that isn't tied to productivity? Because I would contend that if you feel worthy, if you feel held and protected by humanity, you're going to feel a little bit more courageous than if you feel unworthy and puny and small. The last one I spoke about, right? People with money, people with success, people with profiles are different than I am, maybe because they are ruthless or nasty or lucky or privileged or born on third base or whatever. What if you approached the world with a different notion, which is it's possible and safe for me to be recognized for my gifts. It is possible and safe for me to be recognized for my contributions. It is possible and safe for me to be rewarded for my work. It is possible and safe for me to make more money. That's, I think, a challenging one in academia. I would love to explore that more deeply. Let me know if you want me to talk about money and academia, because there are all sorts of both real and mental limits there that I think deserve some unpacking. But just starting with, how would I behave if I felt like it was safe for me to be recognized, safe for me to be rewarded, safe for me to have a profile, right? As opposed to approaching it from, it's not even for me, right? So now these alternative mindsets that I'm offering you aren't quick fixes at all. But if we change our mindsets, we can change how we experience and how we approach the world. And when we change how we approach the world, our environment is likely to change around us, right? I was at my mastermind meeting a couple weeks ago, and one of my co-masterminders used the phrase, if you change how you look at things, the things you look at change. So this notion of putting on a new pair of glasses, putting on a new perspective and saying, okay, what if it isn't inherently dangerous? What if I am not inherently unworthy? What if the world is not inherently mean? What if I have agency and I am not powerless, right? What if I actually have agency? And there's no harm in investigating these self-limiting beliefs and seeing what you churn up. Okay? I'll share mine with you because this is my current ongoing project, and I'll show you how I'm working with it. So at the same mastermind meeting, I met somebody whose current title at their job is Chief Visibility Officer. First of all, I love that. Second of all, it like brought up some stuff for me around visibility. And so I put a name to it, I put a phrase to it, and I said, okay, maybe one of the self-limiting beliefs that I'm working with is it is shameful and self-aggrandizing to be too visible. If my work is really that good, people will magically find me and find my work. Right? I think that's my current self-limiting belief around business, for example. So I'm working on flipping that and saying, okay, I'm building a business to help professors feel good at work at all stages of their career. And I owe it to myself and to them to get the word out. Right? So what this does for me is it puts me in a place of service rather than self-aggrandizing, but it acknowledges that visibility is good, right? Visibility isn't self-aggrandizing. Visibility isn't just me petting my ego in public, right? Where that belief came from, right? That visibility was for other people, or that visibility goes hand in hand with egotism. I can imagine where it came from, right? I could probably have stories about people or incidents or whatever, but that's not really the point. The point is, aha, I recognize that this is probably informing some of the emotional stuff around building this business. And so what I want to close with is this recognition for me and for you that building a career in which we are invested, if we're doing that, if we're being intentional and building a career in which we are invested, our emotions are going to be at play. And for me anyway, the goal is to recognize those emotions and work with them, right? Manage the negative ones. And if that's what I want to do, then growing my career is going to bring up all my shit. Just like growing your career, whether it's via scholarship or teaching or leadership or a magical combination of those three, any of those arenas is going to give you more than ample opportunities to witness your shit, right? And sometimes that shit comes in the form of self-limiting beliefs, like where you hit a wall and go, oh, I don't know what to do now. This feels uncomfortable, right? So why does it feel uncomfortable? Are you working unconsciously, unexaminedly on an old narrative? And how might you move past that? So that is what I want to offer you for today. Go check out your self-limiting beliefs, see what's hiding under the rocks. And if you want to talk with me about how to combat those self-limiting beliefs, how to craft a self-narrative, a self-concept that feels authentic, but more possibility focused and less sort of ossified and stuck in time, please reach out to me at jennifer@jenniferaskey.com. If you found some value in the podcast, I would love for you to share it with somebody else, and I look forward to talking to you again soon. Thanks. Bye. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Mindful Academy podcast. For questions about this episode, suggestions for future episodes, or to request a consultation with me, email me at jennifer@jenniferaskey.com. This episode was recorded in Edmonton, Alberta on Treaty 6 lands. The songs included in the intro and outro for this podcast are Heartache by Silent Partner and Piano Store by Jimmy Fontanez of Media Right Productions, both sourced through the audio library. Thank you so much for listening.